Good evening and welcome. You're listening to Clever Girls, the podcast in which I talk to interesting and clever women about, well, everything and nothing. Tonight, I'm honored to introduce Elly McCausland. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. McCausland?
Yes.
You are quite a mouthful. You're an author, you're a teacher, you're a food writer, you're even a public speaker. You're a very, let's say, a woman of many talents. And you are British, right? Am I correct?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Where do you hail from? Where do you come from?
Cambridge.
Cambridge. Wow, yes. Like the very famous for its university.
Yes, I didn't go to Cambridge University, but I am from Cambridge.
And you are currently teaching in Belgium. You're teaching at the Ghent University. That's right.
Yes, I am.
Let's say, how did you end up in Belgium of all places?
It's a good question. I mean, the short answer is work. I got my job. But yeah, how do you end up anywhere? I left the UK in 2016, as many did, I think. And I just finished my PhD in 2016, and then I got a 2-year position in Denmark. So I moved to Denmark because I got a job there. Mm-hmm. And then when that finished, I moved to Norway because I got a job there. And yeah, I wanted a change after 3.5 years. And so in my field in academia, there aren't that many jobs. So you just go where the job is. But I'm very happy I ended up in Belgium. I'd only been to Belgium twice, I think, before I moved here, but it was a good move. It was by chance, but it was a good decision.
So it was Denmark, Norway, and then Belgium.
And then Belgium, yeah.
So and did they reach out to you, or did you see sort of a position or an application or a job opening in Belgium?
I saw it, yeah. I'd been sort of obsessively tracking the openings for a while, especially during the pandemic, because I think like so many people, I just wanted a change. I wanted to get out. The job I had in Norway was a teaching-only job, and I wanted to do more research, basically. So I'd actually been looking for a while. And then the job in Ghent was advertised, and I remember in 2018, I went on a trip to Belgium with my parents to Brussels just for a weekend away. Mm-hmm. And we were going to do a day trip from Brussels, and it was Ghent or Bruges. And I remember reading that Ghent is Bruges without the tourists, and I thought, which, to an extent is true, less and less, unfortunately. But and so we went to Ghent, and I remember vividly sitting by, I guess it would have been on the Rossley, now that I know that, but sitting by a canal and eating a waffle, with chocolate, a Liège waffle, and thinking that this was a really nice city, and if a job ever comes up here, I'll definitely apply because it feels like a great place to live. Yeah. And so three years later, when the job came up, I remembered that, and I thought, oh, well, maybe it's fate, and I guess it was.
So that was 2021,
2021, I think, was when I applied for the job, because I started in 2022.
Okay, so now you've been here for almost 3 years then.
3.5, yeah.
3.5, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you like it so far?
I like it a lot, yeah. Well, I bought a house, we're sitting in it, so I plan on staying.
You could say it's permanent now.
It's fairly permanent. Yeah, I have a mortgage, so I'm locked down, and I've just been renovating my house. So yeah, I'm in it for the long haul. No, I like it a lot. Yeah. I love my job. I really like the people here, and I really like that if I do get bored, I can be in 5 other countries in about 3 hours, which is amazing. It's
let's say the cliche of Belgium is like the center of Europe.
Yeah, and it kind of is, and when I lived I loved living in Scandinavia, but especially in Norway, you feel quite far out of the way. Mm-hmm. I mean, Norway's huge, so there's plenty to do. Yeah. But here, the proximity to other places, and I can go home to my family on the train, which means I fly less, and that makes I don't have to do like Ryanair every few weeks, which was destroying my soul. So it was a really good move. I'm very happy here.
How would you say if you were to visit Cambridge today? We Belgians, we tend to think of London and nothing else, or perhaps Canterbury. So of course there's a train to London. How far is Cambridge when you are in London?
Not far at all. It's 50 minutes on the fast train. So I guess it's like the equivalent of Antwerp from Ghent.
So you can really be in Cambridge, let's say in less than 4 hours.
Yeah, door to door. I think the quickest I've ever done the whole trip is about 4.5, which is really good. Yeah.
That's really good.
A lot of people do Cambridge is a day trip from London, like tourists when they go there, or vice versa.
I should, yeah. Because I was tired of let's say, the Belgian cliche of London and nothing else. So my wife and I, in 2019, we did a sort of a trip of the southern part of the UK, or the island, let's say. So we did we took my car and we did like Oxford, but we also did the Cotswolds, which was
nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love the Cotswolds. I'd never heard of it even. And it really opened my eyes that there's so many more things to see and do in the UK than just London or Canterbury.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you know, as a Brit, I would say that even then, you know, the South is quite well known, and it's really the North that gets overlooked.
I should go down.
Yeah, I mean, also it's not just a Belgian thing. Like the British are very London centric. You know, there's a huge kind of it's almost like brain drain, but instead of moving away from the UK, people, you know, move into London for jobs and everything. And actually there are some really amazing. So I used to live in York. That's where I did my PhD. And York is an incredible city. I think it's got some of the best food in the UK after London.
I think we did York as well. I remember visiting an amazing bookstore, like 3 or 4 stories high. Could that be York? I think it was, but should ask.
Was it quite narrow but high?
It was high but narrow.
Yeah, that could be York, next to the Minster, maybe.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah,
it was a lovely bookstore. They even offered some drinks, and on like the 3rd floor you could drink or eat something.
I'm trying to think. I'm not sure, but it could well have been.
Yeah, I think we did York. That's still relatively south, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, if you're from the north of the UK, the real north, you would say York is in the south. But if you're from the south, you would say York is the north. It's sort of like I think it's kind of the gateway to the north. It's not Newcastle, which is, you know, properly in the north, but it counts as north, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's North Yorkshire, and Yorkshire is in the north.
North-esque.
But I mean, this is quite nuanced. This is sort of getting into like British spatial politics. So. Yeah, but no, I mean, there's so many places in the country that I haven't visited, and tourists, don't tend to look beyond, you know, Oxford, Cambridge, London, Cotswolds, but yeah, there's lots of.
I'd love to visit Scotland, by the way.
Yeah,
which is,
Scotland
of course,
is also fantastic.
let's say it's another country, which is what the Scots would like to.
Quite literally another country. Yeah.
Even though perhaps let's say the Queen didn't always agree on that. But I think when you ask the average Scotsman, he'd say it's his own country.
Oh, definitely. I think they have a really strong sense of kind of pride and identity, and they should, because I do think Scotland is better than England in many ways.
So you are teaching quite a lot. I looked up your resume. It's English literature in, let's say that's broad strokes, English literature, but it's also, you have a few periods, like older periods. There's a period up to 1800s. What would you say when you were studying? What was your main area of expertise? What was your thing? Your
My actual specialism is children's literature.
Okay.
And so, but at the moment I don't actually teach children's literature. I teach a kind of overview course up to 1800, and then I teach this Taylor Swift course. And I'm planning to introduce a children's literature course, and I've taught them in the past. But my main research area and most of the kind of publications I do is children's literature. And within that, I also look at, you know, other kind of subfields like ecocriticism, Victorian literature, fantasy literature, but kind of under the umbrella of children's literature.
Ecocriticism?
Yeah, so...
that sounds like a foreign thing to me.
It's basically... Kind of as it sounds, the eco part, it's basically looking at how nature and the environment are represented in literature.
Okay.
So... One might argue, and eco-critics argue, that our relationship with nature is not just physical, but it's also linguistic. So the way we talk about nature shapes how we then think about nature, and then the way we interact with nature.
Okay.
So for example, so an example that we might use is the idiom "out of the woods."
Out of the woods, yeah.
Which means, do you have that in Dutch?
I don't know.
To mean like you're kind of safe. Like the worst is over.
Yeah. Damn. Now let me get back to you.
Okay.
If I can.
Because I'm always curious, because there are some idioms that exist in Dutch that are the same in English.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by idioms.
Me too. Like when there's a literal translation.
Yeah, that cross kind of cultural boundaries. But anyway, so out of the woods, you know, one could argue that that's what we might call ecophobic, because it portrays the woods as something negative, right? The woods are a place of danger. And if we look back to some of the oldest literature, going forward, the woods are always a place of danger. If you think about fairy tales, Snow White, horror movies, the dark, scary forest, Harry Potter, for example. And obviously and it's a bit like, for example, Jaws, the movie, has caused so many people to be afraid of sharks.
True.
And then to kind of, that affects how we then treat sharks, right? So it's about how our culture represents nature, which then affects our sort of thing. And we don't even necessarily realize this, that we might have these sort of ecophobic assumptions. And so if we look at literature from an ecocritical point of view, we start to sort of unpack some of those assumptions and look at how we represent nature. And I find that very interesting because I also love plants. I love gardening. I'm really interested in literary plant studies, which is a thing, which is looking at how plants are represented in literature, particularly in children's books. There's also a whole genre called plant horror.
I have no idea.
In literature and in film. So I'm really interested in that and what that tells us about our relationship with the natural world and that kind of thing.
There's a whole new world opening up to me. Thank you.
I mean, you've probably seen some plant horror, like The Evil Dead. Have you ever seen the Evil Dead movies?
I haven't, but of course I know about Ash and the Evil Dead.
And then again, Snow White, right? The way the kind of trees sort of pursue her through the forest. The Whomping Willow in Harry Potter.
Of course.
A tree that comes alive. I'm trying to think of some other example. The Day of the Triffids, which is a novel by John Wyndham from the 50s, where these like killer plants basically take over the world. So there's quite a lot of popular plant.
I think
horror.
there's also a movie called The Happening with
yes, exactly, The Happening. Yeah, and also The Ruins, which is a much less good movie, but based on a novel, and again, sort of plants killing people. So
and funny thing is, because Out of the Woods is not really an expression that I knew prior to you mentioning it, but there's also like the opposite, Into the Woods, which is a musical, so that's more like a positive eco. And
although I think it still plays on the kind of idea of the dark and scary forest, right?
Yeah.
So but I mean, exactly, the forest is so often a place, for us, a place of danger, when actually we're the most dangerous things often in the forest.
Of course. Have you ever seen the movie Fern Gully?
No, I haven't. I heard of it.
Yeah, that's because that's very eco, but that's actually eco-friendly, because that's sort of like a positive message, like protect the forest and be mindful of the.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that as well, and especially now there's a whole genre called cli-fi, climate fiction. Cli-fi. So my colleague does a whole cli-fi course, and basically, it's fiction that focuses on the climate crisis, and a lot of it's obviously quite apocalyptic for good reason. There's
I
a
love
lot of
neologisms like
cli-fi.
That's good. It's like in America there's the Sci-Fi Channel, but it's written not as you would expect. It's like SYFY, so it's like a weird pseudo cool way of writing sci-fi.
I'm not sure about that. Trying to be quirky like that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Sci-fi.
Are you a lover of let's say correct grammar as well? Or?
Yes. I mean, I think I've become a lot more tolerant as I grow up. I think because it's a losing battle to an extent. I see the one thing that really, I think this is my absolute pet peeve is you see it all over social media, sneak peek.
Oh, yeah.
Spelled with EA both times. And it's like, and I can see how it's easily done because you're writing the sneak. And sometimes I found myself typing it just because, and then I've corrected myself. But then I think I sort of realized, this is everywhere now, and I've just learned to, and I think also because I feel like my English gets worse actually with time, and also because most of my friends, I'd say, are non-native English speakers, and so some of them will make mistakes, and I don't really pay attention anymore, and I'm like,
do correct me if I make mistakes.
You haven't made a single mistake.
No. I hate because I love the English language, so of course I'd love to be as correctly as possible.
No, it's perfect.
Now, but perhaps sort of a weird segue, but do you have like a favorite word in your mother's tongue in English?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to think now. There's been definitely times where I've heard a word and I've thought, this is going to go in my kind of word list. But I really like the word coalesce.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. I can't really tell you why. I think I think it's quite beautiful. Maybe it's the S at the end, the kind of French vibes. Maybe it's just coalesce. And I guess it's also the concept's quite lovely, things coming together.
Yeah.
So that off the top of my head, that's one. I mean, but I have many favorite words, I think. But maybe I should write them down.
You should.
I should, because once I I remember making a mental list of my top 5 desserts, because people kept asking me, what's your favorite dessert? And I realized I didn't have an answer. So I memorized my top 5. So I should do that with words as well. But...
So what is your top 5 of desserts?
Okay, so it's sticky toffee pudding, which is a British thing. I'll explain that in a second. Yeah. Lemon tart, apple crumble, cheesecake, and tart tatin.
Oh yeah, I can't really disagree.
The cheesecake, it specifically should be, a kind of vanilla with berries of some sort, or rhubarb, something sharp. But yeah, sticky toffee pudding is a classic British dish. It's quite heavy, as many of our puddings are, but it's made with dates, and it's
I love dates. Yeah,
it's so good. It's basically it's dates, brown sugar. It's not healthy in any way. Dates, brown sugar, flour, bicarbonate of soda, and so it's not quite a cake. It's sort of cakey. And then you serve it with this really, this sauce that's basically butter and brown sugar, so like a toffee sauce.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And I mean, it is sweet, but when you get a good one, it's kind of like got a little bit of like extra flavor from the dates, and the toffee sauce should be like slightly salted, I think, to kind of cut through the richness. And it's so good. If I see it on a menu, I'm right there. You should try it one day. It's phenomenal.
Speaking of which, you prepared something today.
Yes.
Can you tell me what it is?
Well, actually,
can you tell the listeners what it is?
This is in some ways not that far off a sticky toffee pudding. I mean, it's so I'd say the kind of cakey part. So it's a plum and almond cake with cinnamon.
Yes.
And but it's not made like a normal cake. So a normal cake I would in fact, so I made a wedding cake today and yesterday. So I've been making cake all day. And a traditional cake, like a wedding cake, you beat the butter and the sugar. Then you gradually add the eggs. Then you add the flour. But with this, it's much easier. It's like a pudding. So you basically melt butter, brown sugar, and honey. And then you add flour, bicarbonate of soda, and baking powder and cinnamon. Then milk and eggs. And you just mix it all together. So it's like a pancake mixture almost. Wow. It's quite runny. Pour it into the tin. And then I put plums. My friends who live down the road, they have a plum tree and they are drowning in plums, so they brought me this huge basket of plums yesterday. So I put plums in the top and a little bit of marzipan, and so it's not got the dates, but it's got like a sticky toffee pudding vibe.
Well, I'm just gonna try it, so I'll do a live review.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, no pressure. Again, make sure you get a bit with the plum, because that's the best part. Mm-hmm. I haven't actually tried it yet, so I hope it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's really good. Mm-hmm. I love the sour tinge of the plum.
Yeah, I don't like cakes that are too sweet. Because
yesterday my daughter had her 1 year birthday party. Oh. Yeah, she just turned 1 year old, and my aunt made a rhubarb card.
Nice.
And I love the sour tinge of the rhubarb.
I've got some growing in my garden actually, but you're not supposed to harvest it.
You have a lovely garden as well. We're looking out over your garden.
Yeah, so this garden, I bought this house. I moved in nearly 2 years ago, and when I bought the house, the whole garden was just tile. Like there was nothing in it. It was just tile. And so I've been building a garden basically this year, and the way it looks now is a little chaotic because I've just been away for 3 weeks, and so I had to set up this incredibly elaborate sprinkler system with like a computer, and I had to group all the plants together so that the sprinklers would get to them. So it's slightly chaotic. In a couple of weeks it will look better, but this is obvious to anyone who gardens, but if you go away for 3 weeks in June and early July and you come back, it's like an explosion.
Yes.
Most of these plants were like a foot high when I left. The tomatoes, that you can the tomatoes have taken over. They were sort of single stems, and now it's like an absolute jungle. Everything is sort of trebled in size. I've got grapes on my grapevine that weren't there 3 weeks ago, so it was very exciting getting back. I was sort of squealing as I was running around, and I was like, I've got plums on the plum tree and the tomatoes, and it never grows old gardening. It's always so exciting.
Speaking of idioms, it's a jungle out there.
Yeah,
it's also a very
it's
good
quite
one.
literally out here. Yeah, a jungle we're looking at.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's quite soothing to look at all the green.
Do they? I don't know if that's a saying in English, but in Dutch we say you have green fingers.
Yeah, green fingers. Yeah,
okay.
Or sometimes a green thumb. I think it's the same.
But
well, a lot of people say that, but it's just trial and error. I've been gardening. I had a garden in my house in the UK, and I grew a few things, and then I've had houseplants since then, like a lot of them. I mean, yeah, you can see my house is full of plants, and my office is also full of plants. But I don't think I have. It's just practice, you know. Like I've killed a lot of plants too, but you just not intentionally. But you know, it's you just learn, and
it's very easy to kill a plant.
It is very easy, and you know, even now sometimes I still do, and I have some that are real divas, and I now have a policy where if it dies, it just dies. It doesn't get replaced, because I'm like, it didn't have what it takes to thrive in this fast-paced environment. Therefore, it's not cut out. You know, it's a sort of Darwinian approach, like survival of the fittest, and it works. You know.
Yeah. What I forgot to mention, well, when you were handing out, or you were giving your top 5, I love the word tart, because it's also, you use it to describe an old lady, right? A tart.
Not necessarily old, but like
or like a certain kind of lady.
Yeah. I kind of.
Like snobbish, stuck up, something like that? Or am I?
Yeah, a little bit snobbish, but also you could use it to mean like a lady who's a bit like, well, I don't like the word slutty, but slutty.
Okay.
So a tart could also be someone like when I was a teenager, my mum would like sometimes, you know, she'd be like, "Oh, you're not going out like that. You look tarty." And you know, like if I was wearing lipstick when I was 14, you know, and she looking back, she was right. But you know, like if I was dressed like provocatively or, you know, she would be like, that's tarty. So yeah, it's kind of like a slightly milder version of slutty. But it can, I think you can also use it to mean, I think you could probably also use it to mean like snobbish, but I would hear it mostly used. But it's also, now it's quite old fashioned. I think you'd use it more as a joke, like, oh, what that tart, you know, you'd use it ironically.
It's funny because in Dutch we say that too, but to an older lady, like she's a real tart. With a double A, of course.
And is that a positive or a negative?
No, it's not really positive. It's like so a very old lady is like, oh, look at that tart.
Yeah, I mean, if you said about an old lady in English, like, look at that tart, like people would be like, whoa, okay, that's harsh. I mean, it depends what she was wearing, I guess.
Of course,
of course, you know, women are allowed to wear whatever they want, but we have.
That's something that I love about languages and English in particular, is that the differences in let's say meaning, but also between English and American. For example, the C word, like cunt, is quite normal. There's even guys using it to each other to like, he's a good mate of mine. He's my cunt. But in America, no, that's super rude. You can't even use the word on television.
I'd say it's pretty rude in England too.
But I perhaps I'm wrong. Of course, I don't want to, because you're the real English person. But I heard, for example, in Ireland, it's quite normal.
In Ireland, I'd say in Ireland it's more common. Yes.
Yeah, it's like, it's my mate. He's a good cunt. He's a nice fella.
That is true. Like, I think that is true. But I would say in sort of English,
it's still rude.
Oh yeah, like I don't use it a lot. I mean, it's a very satisfying word to say, but I wouldn't say it's one that I use very often at all. Okay. Just not but no, it's still, I mean, it's like if someone uses it on TV, for example, it's like a huge deal. So
or like, let's say, or like cigarette can be a fag, which is really offensive to Americans. Fag,
exactly.
Referring to a homosexual.
Yes, whereas you'd use that really commonly in England.
Can I bum a fag?
Yeah, absolutely.
The first time I heard it, it's like, what?
Oh yeah, that takes on a very different meaning if you think about it in American English. Yeah.
And apparently it was even like a word in the 60s was like a sort of a guy doing like small things in a university context. Like a fag would be like a guy running errands, something like that.
No, that's a British thing. So that's a British sort of public school. So public school in Britain is a private school, confusingly. I never really figured out why. I think I could look it up, but when we say public school, we mean private school.
Okay.
When we say private school, we also mean private school, but when we say state school, that is a public free school. It's fagging is like a private school thing in the UK. So places like Eton, you know, it would be a boy from like who's just started out would basically be the like fag of an older boy, and basically his bitch, right? So like would have to do everything for him. And I think there is also a kind of homoerotic subtext in some contexts as well, that like some dodgy stuff went on behind the scenes. I think I don't know if it still goes on. I'm not a boy at a public school, so it
no idea.
I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff goes on at Eton now. So.
If anyone listening knows, do chime in.
Absolutely. I did go to Eton for a week for a summer school. There was no fagging. It was all very above board, and it was, you know, mixed genders, and it was wonderful. It's an amazing place, but I've never been I've never attended a boys' private school for obvious reasons.
Yeah, true. When you speak of children's literature, the first name that comes to mind to me is Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
Which was, when I was growing up, my absolute hero. And when I was reading, I love this. I named my daughter Matilda. So
that's so nice. It's a lovely name.
To me, he's still like sort of the golden standard of children's literature, even though he had like of course a darker side, and his adult stories are very, very dark. Like what is the I forgot his most famous with the lady who's killing the boys while drugging them. Oh. Do you remember what I mean? No. He has a collection of short stories, and there's an older lady who's inviting guests, or she has like a sort of a, what do you call it, a boardroom or something like. She's renting out rooms, and it turns out that something like a landlady. I think it's even called the land. That's the landlady, and it turns out that she's just drugging them to keep them there forever. So she gives them like barbiturates or something.
Yeah, okay, yeah. but a lot of his children's books are really dark too.
It's true, but I never noticed that as a kid.
No,
it's
you don't do. Or you know, but you love it as a kid.
Yeah. And now I'm reading them again to my son, who's 4 years old, and his grandmother is giving them all the Roald Dahl stories, of course in Dutch, but it's still so dark and so adulty actually.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's what may explain his genius, that he didn't dumb down to his audience.
We have a kind of term for this in children's literary study, and it's called dual address.
Dual address. Okay.
It could be argued that a lot of the best children's authors, or at least the most popular, are ones that use this sort of dual address because they're writing to both an adult and a child. So Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, J.M. Barrie's Peter and Wendy, Peter Pan, are some quite well-known examples. And then, Roald Dahl is another one that's sort of like quite adult, sort of wink-wink sense of humor, that is the child will enjoy certain levels of the story, and then the adult reader, who is probably the one reading them to the child, as you were doing, will also appreciate it. You also, you see it in like sort of modern things like Shrek, the Shrek movies, like there's definitely humor in there for adults that will go over a child's head. And then when you watch it again as an adult, exactly, you're like, hidden meaning. Yeah, exactly. So, that's something that a lot of the kind of the most popular children's authors do. They don't sort of. I mean, a lot of well-known children's authors always say that they never set out to write books for children, and they didn't sit there and think, I'm writing a book for children, but it became popular with children. Their editor said, and I think maybe it's Philip Pullman who wrote His Dark Materials, sort of said, I don't write for children or adults, I just write, kind of thing. Yeah. Maybe it's not Pullman. Someone's definitely said that, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. Yeah,
I always think that it's sad when, for example, a movie aimed at children, treats them like idiots. So
exactly.
You should just write a good screenplay that's applicable. Is that the correct pronunciation? Applicable to kids without dumbing down or without underestimating them, because it's actually one of my favorites. One from when I was growing up is Richie Rich, the movie from 1994 with Macaulay Culkin, which on paper sounds like a stupid movie, but when you look at it through adult's eyes, it's a really smart screenplay, and that's what I love, because it's like, I never caught that. Yeah, that's a so I think one should never, let's say, underestimate his or her audience. No, I think that's a sad way of writing or even creating.
Yeah, and a lot of children's authors have sort of said that, children know when they're being talked down to, and they won't appreciate it.
I think they do.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Very nice. I mean, you've written at least, you've got a forthcoming book in October.
Yes.
Which is called Swifterature.
So I'm actually, yes and no. I've got a book in October which is a cookbook called Bake It Off.
Yeah. And then a lovely pun, by the way.
Thank you. And then I've got the Swifterature book is coming in November.
Okay, so it's two books. Yes. Wow. Very close. But those will be your second and third books, right?
No, they will be my second and third books about Taylor Swift. But in total, they're my fifth and sixth, I think, maybe. Okay. So I have to count. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So I've published 4 books so far, and then the one in October will be my fifth, and the one in November will be my sixth.
Okay, great. So,
but the 2 of them are academic books, which are obviously not so well known. So yeah.
But the question I was getting to was, do you have a plan on writing a full children's book?
This, I don't have a plan. So my literary agent wants me to, because, you know, he thinks that
you could do it. You could pull it off. Yeah.
I would like to in my life at some point. I think the problem is I'm sort of waiting to kind of for the plot to like walk into my head, which is, I mean, this interests me a lot, the sort of narrative of how writers get their ideas. So there's kind of two camps of writers, I think, or artists. There are those who, like, for example, J.K. Rowling said that Harry Potter walked into her head fully formed as she sat on the train. And then, or even like Paul McCartney dreamed the melody for Yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, this bolt from the blue inspiration. And then I think it's Stephen King who said something like, amateurs wait for inspiration, the rest of us just get up and go to work. And I think I'm behaving too much like the Paul McCartneys and J.K. Rowlings of the world, in the sense that I'm waiting for that like lightning strike. But actually I have a sort of series of, I wouldn't even call, well, would I call them ideas? More like images and sort of themes that I would like to use in a book. But I haven't gotten close to doing anything with it because just time, I think. And I've been busy writing other books and then with my job and everything. But no, I would certainly like to at some point. But when, I'm not sure.
You've got time.
And I've also never written fiction, not since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I did write a series of books for children about a male mermaid called Merboy. And I designed the covers and everything. I think my mum still has them.
Merboy.
Yeah, I wrote a lot of fiction as a child and then just stopped and haven't gone back to it. And I think writing fiction is a really different beast. And I was reading Murakami's book of essays on being a writer about a year or so ago. And he makes this really interesting point that basically not everyone can be a fiction writer because you have to sort of see the world in a certain way. And he also says that often academics are not good fiction writers because their mind works the opposite way, in this sort of analytical, forensic way. And to be a fiction writer, you almost need to be more of a kind of a dreamer. And that made me feel a lot better that I hadn't written, you know, a novel at that point, because I thought, well, maybe just fiction is not my genre. But I don't know. We'll see. I'd like to try, but I am not sure if I'd be any good. But yeah, I have time.
Yes, yeah.
I sort of live my life like everything has to be done tomorrow, which is ridiculous because it doesn't.
No. Going back to favorite words in English, I wondered, do you have a favorite word in Dutch?
Oh, do I? I'm sure I do. I'm trying to think. Well, there's one word I really like is ambachtelijk.
Oh yeah.
Only for the reason that it's quite a mouthful to say.
I just want to say that's quite a mouthful.
And it's also, I feel like it kind of reflects what it is, because, you know, it is ambachtelijk. You know, you have to be kind of like artisanal in your pronunciation. And it's a really I think it's quite an obscure word to know. And the only reason I know it is because I was at the Biervelde Turndagen like a while back, and they had ambachtelijke pannenkoeken. And I said to my friend, I was like, what does ambachtelijke mean? And I realized then that if I learn a language around food, that's the only way it sticks in my head, because I've forgotten so many other Dutch words, but I can remember ambachtelijk. so yeah, that's...
Your pronunciation is quite
Thank
good,
you.
because the CH is a really hard sound for, let's say, native English people. Yeah, because you don't have the...
No, we don't. No, it's true.
I remember, like, for example, there's the Belgian actor Matthias Schoenaerts. The sch is really hard to pronounce because you don't have it.
Yeah.
The closest you have is like school, but it's like a hard K.
That's true, actually.
But you don't have the sch.
Yeah, well, we also don't have the ch in Ghent, you know. But you do have that in Norwegian. So I also speak Norwegian, and so the ch sound exists in Norwegian, so that's not too difficult. And it's also nice. I find it hard to do the Dutch ch, you know, Ghent. And that I'm less of a fan of the Dutch accent, I have to say.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, that it's easier in English. Ghent. It's like, but perhaps Ghent. Yeah, it's even closer to like what you would call like a man, a gent.
Yes, exactly. And when it's written down, like I sometimes, because I don't even see it, like I realize how I don't even see these. So, for example, I was talking to a woman like a year ago or something, and her name's Lise, and I was like, oh, Lise, and then she was like, yeah, I studied in the UK, and people were always like, is your name really Lies? And I don't even see it anymore. I never see it as Lies. So I've become like indoctrinated, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I don't even really think about these things anymore. But then sometimes when I write out Ghent, because I don't usually put the H in, because I'm, you know, But then I'm like, it does look weird, doesn't it? It's like gent, you know, calling someone a gent. Like I live in Gent. And I'm sure people have pronounced it like that as well.
One of the weirdest things of growing up, let's say, as a non-native speaker of English, so living in Belgium and reading English and watching English movies, there's always lots of words that I don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah, but
because I read them.
Exactly.
And it's like...
Well, me too. I mean, like, even in English. I like, I'm trying to think of, like, the word panacea, which is quite niche, admittedly, but I always thought it was panacea until I first heard someone say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure I can't think of any examples.
I think I
right
had
now,
like reiterate. I can't even
reiterate. Yeah,
reiterate.
Yeah.
I read like reiterate or something like that.
Is epitome, so it's epitome. But obviously, a lot of people. I heard someone at a conference the other day say epitome because they'd obviously never. And, you know, fair enough, if you've only ever...
And to me, it even sounds correct because it's like a tome of
exactly,
a book.
Because English is bonkers and has no logical pronunciation rules.
Bonkers, by the way. That's
that's one of my favourite words. Yeah. Much of life is bonkers. But yeah, like English doesn't follow any rules. Like, I feel so sorry for anyone who has to learn it.
Was it like, there's this joke of thorough, through,
exactly.
though? And like,
it's all written. Though, there's a whole... Someone wrote a poem, on the internet where, like, nothing...
I love it. I love it.
It's... Yeah, no, I feel sorry for everyone who has to learn it. It's a stupid language.
Or even, for example, there's the Robbie Williams album, Life Through a Lens, and then he wrote like THRU.
Yes.
Not THROUGH. Because that's how most people would write it. Through. It makes more sense. To me, it sounds like ugly because I also like grammar and correct spelling. But I can get that even a native speaker would say through with a U sounds more logical or looks.
No, it's a stupid language. I'm sorry. I apologize to the world.
No, I love English. And there's... By the way, one of my favorite words is smithereens.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love it.
Smithereens. Yeah, that's quite a niche word, actually.
And also shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
I think I have a sort of the sh. Is what I.
The S words. I'm trying to think if I have any other favorite. I'm just looking around the room, but it's not going to give me any inspiration. No, yeah, I definitely have them. I'm gonna make that list. That's inspired me. I'm gonna sit down and make a list of my favorite words for next time someone asks me that.
You can help me. There's also a word that one of those that I don't know how to pronounce because I always read it. It's like it's an old word for a boat, like a pirate boat.
Okay.
And I think it's a schooner or schooner.
Yeah.
But to me it's like schooner.
Schooner. Yeah.
Like schooner. Prettier. Yeah. Schooner.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it is. Yeah. I'm sure it's schooner than something. Yes, schooner. I feel like we once read a poem. Yes, we once read a poem when I was doing A-level English that had the word. I didn't know the word until then.
So it's schooner.
Schooner, right? Yeah, like almost like school with a hard. Yeah, like the same school. Yeah. So it does actually follow logic in some ways.
There's also like the Martin Scorsese's very excellent 40-year, let's say, collaborator of more than 40 years. His editor is Thelma, and she's called she has a Dutch name, so it's schoonmaker, as in make something prettier. Yeah. But I think it will be like schoonmaker. I have no idea how to pronounce it. But I love the fact that she makes his movies prettier. So it's like the perfect name.
Literally a schoonmaker. Yeah, nice.
And that's also one of my favorite things is like the aptonym, like when you have a name that fits the profession you do.
Yeah.
I can't think of an example right now, but
like Fisher, you know.
Yeah, like a fisherman being called fisherman, or a baker called baker. Yeah. But there's super niche examples. Like there's a Dutch professor of colonial history, and he's called Geert Oost-Indië.
Oh wow!
How weird is that you have that name?
So they call that nominative determinism. Yeah, and I know that because a podcast I listen to a lot. I don't know if you listen to No Such Thing as a Fish.
No, sorry.
I think you'd enjoy it. It's basically. Do you know QI, the TV show?
Yeah, with Stephen Fry.
Yeah. So it's basically the podcast is done by the researchers for QI, and essentially every episode they just. Each one of them, there's 4 of them, just tells their favorite fact that they've seen that week or heard that week, and then they just chat about it. And so but it's also comedy, so it's like silly. But there's a lot of kind of discussion of nominative determinism, and crazy examples of really niche surnames that fit. I can't think of any right now. As you've seen this session, I'm very bad at thinking of examples.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, so they were even crazier examples of that.
I think one I do remember that was like the best I ever heard is like, in Dutch there's a word chef-kok.
Yeah.
That's like the master chef,
Yeah.
chef cook. There was a chef cook being interviewed on television, and his name was Chef de Coq.
Yeah, exactly.
How?
And it's
can
like,
you be
which
called-
came first? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, did that inspire you to pursue this career? You know, and yeah, like, which is it, the chicken or the egg? You know, is it the name or the career? And
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
How can you be called Chef de Coq when you're a chef? It's like-
yeah, that is wild. I mean, yeah,
insane.
my
insane.
name doesn't work in any of those ways. It
No.
doesn't mean anything. But well, maybe it did
Do you
once.
know the origin of McCausland? or-
It's Irish, but I don't. My family would probably be very sad that we don't know. But no, so I'm half Irish, and it's Irish. It's not Scottish. A lot of people think it's Scottish.
Yeah,
because
because
it's spelled
of
in
the
the
muck.
more
Yeah, the muck.
Scottish way.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. It's quite rare. There aren't many McCauslands. But I don't know if it means anything. Maybe I should look it up. But,
Yeah. Well,
But it's like, it's especially having lived abroad now for however long, like it's the biggest giveaway that I'm not from, you know, Belgium, Norway or Denmark. Like people will look at my ID card and they'll sometimes even here they'll switch to English because they just assume that I'm obviously not Flemish and can't speak Flemish because of my name. And I actually can, but like reasonably. But and there's always the Elly McCausland, you know, and there's always that moment I'm like, McCausland, it's fine. When I lived in Norway, I basically ended up having to become a different person because Norwegians could, like, first of all, Ellie was weird to them because it's not my passport name. My passport name is Eleanor. And in Scandinavia, they just don't do nicknames. So they would get really confused that my names didn't match. And they'd be like, they thought it was like fraud or something. And so basically, when I was asked my name in Norwegian, I'd be like, Eleanor McCausland, because otherwise if I said Elly McCausland, they'd be like, what is this? So I had to sort of Norwegianify it. Here, I don't have to do that. Most people can handle Ellie.
I think I only know one Ellie. Well, prior to you, it's not the most common name to have in Belgium. But
no.
I do know one Belgian gal called Ellie.
Yeah, and it's often spelt with an IE rather than a Y. But I don't know why I spell it with a Y. I mean, since I was like
Eleanor, that's great. I wanted to call Matilda Eleanor as well, but my wife didn't want. She wanted a name that could be like not mispronounced, and she said like in Belgium people would say like Eleonore or something.
Yeah.
And I really wanted, because I love Eleanor just as I don't know, like a lovely name. But she didn't want it, so I had to budge.
I guess Matilda, you can't really pronounce that any differently.
Probably there are people even doing a butchered version of that, but I don't know.
No, that's probably a safe bet. But no, it's a nice name. Apparently, there's a study done in the UK, and apparently. People called Eleanor are more likely to be more intelligent.
Oh, well,
I don't know why that
look
is.
at that.
Again, my mum told me, she's obviously very proud, but again, I was like, well, is that because it's a more like upper class name and you're more likely to have the money to afford it private? I don't know. I don't know like what the science behind it, but
do you have siblings or?
Yeah, I have a younger brother.
And what's his name?
Sam.
Sam.
Well, Samuel, but no one calls him Samuel, so it's Sam. Yeah. But same thing.
That's less. Let's say that's less classy than Eleanor. But
I mean, I agree. Yeah, he's not very classy.
Is he a male tart?
Yes, let's say he is, and I'll make him listen to this.
How would you call? Is it like a yob, like a YOB?
No, a yob is like. I was going to say a yob is like a lout, which is just me using another confusing word. Yeah, a yob is like a misbehaving youth, you know, the kind of like antisocial, like the kind who would like throw a brick through windows or like smoke weed on the street corner, you know, like, tart is a very kind of female gendered concept, I would say. I'm not sure there is a male equivalent.
Yeah, is there a male equivalent to tart? Yeah.
No, I don't think there is. I mean, maybe there is. I'm not very good with slang, so I don't know. I'm also, my brother is definitely not a male tart either way. He's like very shy and normal.
Oh, sorry, Samuel. I didn't want to.
Oh no, it's fine. He'll love this. I'm going to make him listen. He won't listen.
He'll listen to the first.
He has
minute
better
and
things
say,
to do. He won't listen. He'll be like, oh great, okay, bye.
What does he do in life?
He lives in Shanghai, in China, and he is a teacher.
Oh, also a teacher.
Yeah, weirdly, my family.
You spread out.
None of us would teach. Well, so my parents, like my mum worked in IT, and my dad worked as like a manager for various car companies. And then when he quit his job later in life, he started teaching English as a foreign language. And then I've always been an academic, so I guess that was inevitable. And then my brother worked in insurance until like 3 years ago and then trained to become a teacher. So we've all ended up apart from my mum, we've all ended up teaching. So it's not, I wouldn't say I was from a teaching family, but we have all ended up teaching in various ways.
Evolved into a teacher.
And my mum is very good at teaching other people. Actually, no, that's not true. I was going to say she's good at telling people what to do. She's the worst teacher in the world. She's tried to teach me to knit and to crochet. And she'll get the needles and she'll be like, you just do this. And her hands, you can't see because I'm only speaking, but her hands will move at like lightning speed. And I'll be like, sorry, what did you just do? And she'll be like, oh, it's like this. I mean, I've said this to her, so she won't be offended. But, you know, she's very skilled at many things, but she's not good at then teaching because she'll sort of not understand why you can't just immediately pick it up. And she's not very good at explaining. Because also knitting is muscle memory, a lot of it. So it is actually quite hard to... It would be like if I tried to teach someone to ride a bike or to swim, I'd be like, well, you just do it, you know. So...
just do it.
But yeah, she's a terrible teacher, so it's a good thing she didn't go into teaching. But she's very good at sort of... suggesting things to do and kind of giving advice, but teaching not so much.
Yeah.
Although she has taught me nearly everything I know, but not sort of explicitly as a teacher.
You've dropped it a few times, but we haven't really talked about it. You are quite the foremost expert on Taylor Swift.
Sure, yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, why not?
That's quite. Let's say it's. I'm looking for what's the adjective I'm looking for. It's peculiar. It's not the first. Not a lot of people would be or could be considered an expert on Taylor Swift.
No, it's certainly not where I saw my life going.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled.
I had 2 Swifties on Clever Girls so far, just so girls that are big fans. But you're the first expert, so I'll let you do the talking. When did you discover Taylor Swift, and how did it turn into a sort of a love affair with?
Yeah, so nearly 20 years ago. So I've been listening to her since she started making music because we're the same age.
Yeah, 1989. Yeah,
indeed.
That's quite.
And so yeah, I grew up with the music. I remember, streaming it illegally, like in my bedroom when I was, I guess sort of 16. Listening to it from then on, always kind of played a big role in sort of soundtracking my life. And I think, I had a few kind of scattered conversations with Swiftie friends over the years about, this reminds me of this novel, or like, wouldn't it be cool to sort of look at her and literature? And then I had to set up my master's course in 2023. Yes, 2023. And a colleague of mine had sort of seen my kind of Taylor Swift side and was like, you should do a course about this. And then I sort of thought one day, I was like, actually, it's not a joke anymore. Maybe I should just do it. And I set up this course, and then it sort of got into the media and went a bit crazy. And since then, I've written 3 books. I've got a 4th. I've just been asked to do a 4th, so that'll come out in 2026. And I like travel all over the world and talk about Taylor Swift. It's really bonkers. Like it's a really like strange career path that I didn't envisage, but it's definitely the best thing I've ever done. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So they often say you shouldn't turn your hobby or your passion into a job. And there are sometimes elements of that where I'm like, I don't want to listen to Taylor Swift ever again. But that lasts like a day, and then I go back. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a connoisseur so far. I have 2 of her albums. I have the 1989, well, not the Taylor's version, because at the time I thought she was already, let's say, released from the clutches of...
Well, and now she is. So actually it's now kind of Taylor's version, all of them. She brought back
true. But I thought that, because what is it? It's 2014 album, I think.
No, it's not until Lover that she starts making her own music.
And then I have Midnight, so that's Taylor's version, because that's the only version.
And they're both quite quite similar sonically, actually. 1989 and Midnight.
Perhaps that's the reason. I don't know why, but it was just a song that spoke to me and told me, well, you should pick up the record.
Okay.
So it was Blank Space for 1989, and it was Anti-Hero for Midnight.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know why, because I'm really not an expert, but I just love the way she doesn't use like cliche idioms or expressions in her lyrics. For example, even, was it, she's laughing at us from hell, slowly lurching towards your favorite city. Yeah. Those are weird lyrics. Those are not the lyrics you'd hear in average pop songs.
Yeah, and the sexy baby thing. Like, yeah.
I love that. But I'm still not an expert. So again, I'll let you do the talking. what is it about Taylor Swift that seems to sort of capture this generation? She's like the biggest pop star ever right now. I mean, selling out stadiums, even having sort of pre-sale raffle, which is unheard of. She's not even doing Belgium, so Belgian fans have to go to the Netherlands or to Ireland. I don't.
Paris.
What is it? What's her secret?
I think it's a combination of things. I think firstly, she's just very productive. So she's got nearly 300 songs, which means that there is a Taylor Swift song for pretty much any scenario. So people do find them very relatable. A lot of people say she only writes breakup songs. That's statistically not true. Yeah. There's everything from like losing a grandparent to losing a child to being in high school. A lot of these experiences that many people can relate to. Yeah. And then I think it's also that, I wouldn't say she was necessarily the first to do it, but she really made a career out of that kind of confessional style of songwriting where she would put in these very specific details from her life, things that had obviously happened to her, particular relationships. And that specificity, I think, it's a bit of a paradox because it's obviously really specific to her life, but it makes her more relatable so I call it universal specificity when I'm writing about her. It's this idea that mentioning those kind of specific moments in your own life, her own life, then makes the listener think about their own life and sort of their own moments, and that makes it more relatable. So I think also she sort of made it okay, but she sort of made it more acceptable for basically young women to be sad and to sing about being sad. And, she's not the first to do that, but she really made it her kind of calling card. Yeah. And I think that appealed to a lot of young women who did feel overlooked or feel that their emotions were made fun of, that they didn't have the right to be sad, that they were supposed to like conceal their feelings or they'd be made fun of. And she essentially just made a career out of being very vulnerable, very vocally. You get that in Anti-Hero as well, right? Mm-hmm. Even later in her career. So, yeah, and obviously her fan base aren't all women, but they are very predominantly women. So yeah, I think it's a combination of just the sheer breadth of topics she sings about, and then also how she sings about them. There's a kind of like rawness to it that, anyone who feels a lot can relate to. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is she aware of your course or?
I don't know. I'm sure she's aware that there are a lot of university courses about her. I'm sure someone's probably told her.
You're not the first to...
No. There was one in Texas, Elizabeth Scala, at the University of Austin, I think, in Texas, I think was the first. And then there was a summer school at Queen Mary University in London in 2023. And then I started mine in autumn 2023. So I think mine might have been the first like official master's course in Europe on her, but I don't know. I haven't checked, all the university syllabi. But yeah, now there's loads. There's one in Switzerland. There's lots more in the US. I think there's a couple more in the UK. We had a conference, an online conference a few weeks ago, and there were a lot of like Taylor teachers there, talking about teaching Taylor. So yeah, there's definitely a huge community of us now.
Taylor teachers nice. Sounds great.
Yeah, teaching Taylor teachers, and I've written quite a few articles for books, academic books about Taylor Swift, and so they're usually collaborations between a lot of academics who work on her. And I'd say there's probably hundreds of us by now.
Great.
Yeah,
it's when you think of it, it must be quite overwhelming for her as well that she sort of, struck this chord and inspired so many people to not only listen to her, but also write about her and analyze her. And there's all kinds of websites or forums or blogs breaking down, you even have a blog, breaking down all her literary influences, but also her shout-outs, her hidden meanings, her even, what is it, like intertextual meaning,
Easter eggs,
everything, Easter eggs. I think that's quite unique even in the well-documented pop field for an artist to be that dissected on such a daily basis, and people just scanning the lyrics to just find something and talk about it. And that's really, I think, quite unique. I don't think she has an equal in that, at least in that regard. I don't think she has an equal, because I also like Easter eggs, of course, we all do. But my favorite musicians, I don't think they have that many Easter eggs.
No, and I think more and more artists are starting to do it, or at least to do kind of comparable things. But yeah, I think she was one of the first to sort of really put those kind of hidden messages. I mean, they weren't that well hidden; they were quite obvious. You know, she used like capitals in the liner notes for her albums to sort of spell out messages and that sort of thing. But yeah, there's quite a few articles about this, how they call it kind of the Taylor Swift cinematic universe and how it became a thing. And yeah, it was a very successful strategy, but it also kind of led to people thinking that everything is an Easter egg and then really obsessing and,
reaching for straws, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then again, that's also what we do in literary study. We look at works of literature and we find meanings that, may just be us, like imagining
maybe the
something.
author never intended
exactly, and that's a huge debate we have. Does it even matter what the author intended? We'll never know anyway. So I have a chapter on this whole thing in the book that's coming out in November, the Swifterature book, about there's a whole chapter on kind of like the author's intention, Taylor Swift's Easter eggs. Do we know what the author intended? Is it right to even try and know what the author intended? And this is a debate we have in literary study called the intentional fallacy, and some would argue it's pointless anyway. So I sort of use Taylor Swift as like a way into this discussion we've been having in the classroom for decades. Yeah.
But does she sometimes comment on the Easter eggs herself? Does she confirm them or does she deny them? Or
she usually doesn't really do either. Like, I think she was once asked about the symbolism of the scarf in All Too Well, and she said it was a metaphor, but that's all she said. Oh. I don't think she's ever explicitly named. She always said, "Oh, I never name names." Like, she's never said who a song is about. But then there are often clues that are so obvious that it's like. And then once she did. So the song Enchanted from Speak Now, like in the liner notes of the album, it spelled out Adam. So it's apparently the lead singer from Owl City. So there she did technically name a name. And then there's the song Dear John, which is very obviously about John Mayer. And so you could kind of argue that is naming names, but it's also not, because it's, a Dear John letter is a thing. There's a song Style.
Also a movie, right? I think, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Isn't it like a Channing Tatum movie? Dear John? I could be mistaken.
It could well be. So she doesn't usually, I think, go into the Easter eggs when they're about people. But usually she leaves like clues as to like the title of her next album and that kind of thing, and then obviously she'll reveal what it was. So, but I mean, these days she doesn't really do anything, in the sense that she's been quiet for a really long time. Apart from when she brought back her masters, she's been very not on social media since the Eras tour. Really.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. So the sort of Swift fever has kind of died down, and a lot of fans are really like hungry for more. I sort of hope she does something in autumn when my books are coming out, so I can like capitalize on some of that renewed obsession, but we'll see. If you're listening, Taylor, that would be great.
That would be, imagine, always welcome as a brother.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That would be like the biggest episode ever.
Yeah, come to Belgium, you can interview her, I'll cook. Like, we can have a little chat around the kitchen table, it'll be lovely.
16 billion listeners.
Yeah, it'll be gezellig,
Yeah, gezellig, that's a good word.
Yeah, that is a good
Perhaps
word.
That could be your favorite.
Yeah, that is good, yeah.
And, well, ambachtelijk is also a good one.
Ambachtelijk, gezellig, yeah.
And goesting is also a very nice one.
Yeah, that's true.
I've heard many, let's say, foreign people or non-native Dutch speakers say, I love goesting.
That's a good one to say, yeah, goesting. Yeah.
Because it's such a weird word, because there's not really an equivalent.
No, it's sort of the same with gezellig, really. It's, I mean, gezellig is like hygge in Danish,
hygge,
which there isn't really an equivalent for, but, British people are always trying to sell it as like books about hygge and that kind of thing, and it's, it became a huge lifestyle thing. But actually, I just thought so before I started learning Dutch, my ex-boyfriend is Dutch, and...
Dutch or Belgian? Or...
Dutch.
Oh, really Dutch?
Yeah. He always, I can say it because he said it. He always said Dutch is not a language; it's a throat disease. But he was talking about Netherlands Dutch rather than Flemish, which is much softer. But I remember the first time that I discovered that a shop in Dutch is a winkel, and I laughed for about half an hour because in English a winkel is like.
Is it a word in English?
I mean, I'm not even sure if it's in the dictionary, but it's basically like slang for like a little boy's penis. Like it's the kind of word, like if you've got you have a son. It's the kind of thing that you'd like when you're talking to your kid or your kid, that's what your son would call his penis. Like, it's sort of cutesy word for a little boy's winkle. Penis. Yeah.
But then with a KLE, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not sure I've ever seen it written down, but yeah, I mean, and it might also be very regional. I don't know if it's winkle, all over the UK, we'd say. But yeah, so I was just like, and I just found it so funny. And then, there's also like the web winkle and the like kringloop winkle. And I was like, oh my God. And now, I mean, even quite recently, I think in a Dutch lesson, I forgot the word for shop. And I was like, what on earth is it? And I wanted to say boutique because that's what it is in Norwegian. I was like, and then of course I was like, how could I forget this? Because it made me laugh so much. But obviously it's now become totally normalized. I don't even think about it anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, and the winkle, you know, like, but yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to think of a Dutch equivalent for a little boy's penis.
Yeah, it's not something I ask about in my lessons, funnily enough. So I'm not sure. I'm not
Weird topic.
Yeah, I'm not so up on the slang. But
I think probably when I'm talking to my son and I say like, go clean your winkle. I think I just use like the that's another one. Diminutive.
The ch, yeah.
Piemeltje. So
okay,
I would say that.
Go kind of similar, I guess. It's a sort of cutesy way of saying it. Yeah.
Is it diminutive? Is it how?
Diminutive. Yeah.
That's one of those words that I always read and never hear.
yeah. I guess you might think it was diminutive. Yeah.
Diminutive.
It's like a hard word to say.
Demure. That's also one of those.
Demure is a good word.
Yeah, but
demure is another word that sort of. Even when you say it, you kind of become demure, you know. But it also sounds like demure, you know, the wall, right? Like,
it's funny that there's so many weird links between Dutch and English that are totally out there.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm still thinking about out of the woods. I haven't found it. I think you could say like we're safe, like we're out of it. But in Dutch, we would just say, we zijn veilig, but you wouldn't say we zijn uit het bos. So I'm really not sure if there's an equivalent.
Hey, interesting.
Out of the woods. But I do think there is one, but it's on the tip of my tongue.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, and maybe, you know, when you edit this, you can put it in. You can have
tart. Yeah. Demure.
Winkle.
It's
going to be a load of words.
You know, it's funny, the Vanilla Ice, like the 90s rapper, his name is Robert Van Winkle. So it's Van Penis.
I guess. I mean, I think... Yeah, I suppose it is. I think I didn't think of it in that context. When it's someone's name, it just seems to... I think it's just something funny about, like... Somehow it's funnier when it's like the word for shop. I don't really know. I think it was... Because my ex used to work in sales, so he'd be on the phone and I just keep hearing him saying like, oh, the winkle, the web winkle. And I was... it was just like... Yeah, it was just really funny. It's very childish, but...
No. I totally get it. I mean, if that's what's coming to your mind when you hear the word, you'll laugh. Yeah, of course.
And also, this reminds me of I was in Malta a couple of weeks ago, and I'm trying to get this right. I think I was talking to a guy from Brazil, and I think we were talking about Gozo, you know, the island, the Maltese island. And I think this is right. I think he was saying that he couldn't take it seriously because in Portuguese, Gozo is like a slang word for semen. And he was just like, so every time people are talking about Gozo, I'm just like, what is happening? You know, and there are so many things like that where, and I thought of an example of this just the other day, actually. So a good example is in Danish, and in so in Danish, slag, or slay, you would actually say, or slag in Norwegian means type, like a type of thing, and I guess here it means like, you know, slagroom. But in English, a slag is like a slot. And so you'd be like, you'd see a big billboard in Denmark, and it would say like 3 slags, and it would say like 3 slag, like
on sale.
Slay tea, like 3 types of tea or whatever. And also sluts, is the same as slut here. It means finish. But a closing down sale in Danish is a slut spurt. And I just could not take that seriously, you know, seeing all these billboards, slut spurt, and I'm just like, oh my God, this just sounds so rude. So rude. And obviously it's completely innocent, but you see, all these things that, like, to your English speaking brain, even like the Danish word, so the Danish word for darling is skat, which is also the same as the word for tax or treasure. So like the tax agency.
we have that too, skat. Yeah.
But in English, scat is short for scatological, which,
of course.
So again,
without the H, right?
Yeah, so there's no H in Danish, it's just SKAT.
In Dutch.
Here at least you have the skat.
Yeah.
So it kind of distances it, but in Danish, and again, like, that was always really hard to get my head around. I'd just be like, and it's also, I think it's just a horrible word, skat. Like, it sounds like it's too like quick, skat. Like, it doesn't sound like darling. At least skat is a bit slower somehow. I don't know. It's schattig, you know, like it's nicer. But there are a lot of funny words in Scandinavian languages that I enjoy.
I did my Erasmus in Sweden. So
nice.
I spent 6 months. That's also hard to pronounce. Months. in Sweden, and I of course there's always funny words. There's also lots of similarities with Dutch as well. Like, for example, and even with Antwerp dialect. So, like, in Antwerp, we would say the police, it's like the police, like very short, police. And that's the same in Swedish, police.
Yeah.
But also, for example, like the ticket, when you wanted to buy a ticket to park on the streets, like biljetautomaat.
Yeah.
Like exactly the same as in Dutch, biljetautomaat. Like, why? Why is it? Or like, what was it like? Say up for tog is like watch out for the train, something like that, which is totally not, well, that struck me as tog is totally not train or tren.
Yeah.
So then Dutch and English is similar, train, tren.
Yeah.
And other words are so almost exactly the same and not in, like, what is it? I think frukost is like breakfast. That's totally different.
But in Danish, it's lunch, which is very confusing. It's the same word, but in Norwegian and Swedish, it's breakfast, and then in Danish, it's lunch.
Damn.
And in Danish, breakfast is literally morning food. Morgenmad
And then you go to Finland, and then
and then nothing makes any sense. Yeah. I mean, some of them speak Swedish, but
but apparently Finnish or
Finnish,
the Finnish line. The Finnish language is actually more. It resembles Russian more than it does Swedish or whatever.
It's also, I think it's Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian are these really weird languages. Not weird. That's very rude, but like strange, as in they. Don't descend from like Indo. They're not similar to any other Indo-European languages. They're actually closer into to sort of East Asia or East Europe. Supposed to be really hard to learn Finnish.
I remember.
Never tried.
I remember picking up one of my pet peeves is translated movie titles because because of course we grew up in a country that doesn't dub its movies, but in the past, in the 50s and 60s, they did translate the titles because of course people didn't speak English. So and in Sweden they still do. Sweden and Norway, they don't dub, but they do translate the titles up until this day. They still translate their titles. So like, for example, like the movie Cars from Pixar is Bilar in Swedish. Or the Goonies. Have you ever seen the Goonies?
I have, yeah.
One of my favorites is like De Dødskallegang. It's something like the Gang of the Deadly Skull, something like that.
That's way worse.
Cool, but why? Or like Naked Gun is like Nakna Pistolen. That's, I love that. Or Back to the Future is Tillbaka till framtiden, which sounds really aggressive actually.
Swedish is quite aggressive sounding actually.
But I love, and in Belgium, let's say up until the 60s or 70s. So for example, like you have the very famous Marlon Brando movie On the Waterfront was like Langs de Kade. Or that's a great one. Rebel Without a Cause is like botsende jeugd. So like botsen is like that they sort of they tend to be aggressive, like as in botsen, like bumper cars. Botsende jeugd. What?
This reminds me. I was in Spain a couple of weeks ago, and I was seeing billboards for Squid Game 3, and I just loved it in Spanish. So my Spanish is terrible, but it was like El Juego de Calamar.
Of course,
obviously, but obviously, I just think of calamari and like edible squid, and like I just love that I just love the literalization, the game of the squid, which really just sounds so much more epic, doesn't it? Like Squid Game. I always thought Squid Game was a really sinister title. There's something about it, and it's obviously quite a sinister show. But like the game of the squid sounds like quite noble somehow. Like it's a sort of Olympic ritual or something, or like a kind of Grecian custom. I just love the game of the squid.
Imagine if they still did it in Belgium, like the octopus spellen.
It also makes me think of like the Day of the Tentacle.
Or the Day of the Locust.
The computer game, like the day of the game of the squid.
That's so really
good.
funny.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I always wonder how, for example, the French are really, well, I don't want to say bad, but they really have weird movie titles. So, for example, Home Alone is Maman, j'ai raté l'avion. Mom, I missed the plane.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, now that you say that, I think they don't do a literal translation.
No, it's like
they do a whole
thematic
story. Yeah, it's almost like a little novella in itself.
The Naked Gun is there a cop to save the queen? Y a-t-il un flic pour sauver la reine? What?
Oh, I love that. Imagine being the person who has to come up with these things. That would be the best job. That would be a great job.
I think the funniest is the horse whisperer, which is l'homme qui murmurait à l'oreille des chevaux, which is like the long. There's not even space enough for Robert Redford's face on the poster. It's like all text. It's like a block of text.
And also, like, again, but that's really literal. Like, the man.
The man who whispers in the ear of the horse.
It's like, and French is usually. not one of those really long-winded languages, whereas I feel like in German it would be one word, because German has that, and actually Dutch has that amazing ability to combine like 8 words into one.
It's like, what is it, like hospital? Krankenhaus.
Yes,
That's so great.
There's I'm trying, again, I can't think of any examples, but there's some quite good Dutch words. Actually, I remember one really random word I know in Dutch is bezettingsvergoeding.
Wow.
From when I bought my house, and it's like, opschotene woordwaarden, these like really, those weirdly complex
words that I never used.
Yeah, like it's to do with, when you sign the compromis, when you buy a house, and I had to learn all this like bizarre terminology, and you can put it all into 1 or 2 words, whereas in English it would be like a full sentence.
The Dutch word for turquoise, the color?
No.
That's appelblauw zeegroen.
Oh, that's lovely.
What a weird word is it? Appelblauw zeegroen.
Sea green.
That's
like bonkers. I love that. Okay, that's my new favourite word.
What a weird word for a colour.
Zeegroen. I love that.
Zeegroen, yeah.
It's also like decide. Is it blue? Is it green? Is it an apple? Is it the ocean?
That's the turquoise.
That's mad. Because also turquoise, comes from Turkey, right? Like that's where it originally comes from. So, but I love that the Dutch are like, no, we're going to remove that heritage and make it about like stuff that isn't really turquoise, like apples and the ocean. Actually, it can be turquoise depending on where you are. But love that.
Yeah.
Okay, that and ambachtelijk. I'm going to try and find a way to put both. When I do my exam, I'm going to try and find a way to fit both of those words into
You should just write your first children's novel should be like ambachtelijk appelblauw zeegroen.
That's actually a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll just write my first children's novel in Dutch, and then if it's bad, I can be like, sorry, not my first language. Can't blame me. I tried.
A for effort.
Yeah, exactly. A for appelblauw zeegroen.
And I think the funniest thing about French movie titles right now is that now they're sort of letting it go. So now they're embracing the original language. So they are using English, but they're using simplified English.
Okay.
So for example, The Hangover, which is a word that they don't use. They don't know. It's Very Bad Trip. So it's an English title. Yeah. It's not the French, whatever. But they use
more confusing because a trip can be a journey or it can be like a drug, trip.
Which is what they mean, of course. The drug trip, Or... for example, like Cocaine Bear, there was like a weird movie about a cocaine bear. It's called Crazy Bear in France. It's like easier English.
And then it also takes away from a lot of the plot.
I don't know why.
That's really odd. Really like if you're going to watch a movie in English, like you probably will at least know enough to know the time. That's very strange.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy that kind of thing. I remember finding out that I think it was in Norway, Lord of the Rings was translated. So not the title, but. Or maybe it was when the Lord of the Rings books were translated into Norwegian, they also translated the characters' names. So like Frodo Baggins was Frodo Sekir. And Sekir means, probably the same in Swedish, means literally bags.
Yeah.
So they'd sort of taken, and I think that must also be a really cool job, like being a translator of things like that where you have to, I think it's the same for the Harry Potter books.
Yeah, I just want to say that there are Dutch names for like Hermeline for Hermione.
Yeah, exactly.
But Harry is still Harry and Ron is still Ron.
Okay, maybe, they're quite easy to pronounce as well.
Yeah, but Weasel was like Weasel, which is just a little. But then, for example, Hogwarts is Zwensten, which is it's a good translation.
Yeah,
but it's still weird because.
And it's also with that kind of translation, it's not about being literal. You also want to capture the kind of like phonetics of it. It's like the whole point of Weasley is it sounds a bit like Weasel. It's supposed to make Ron seem not that attractive, and then. With Hogwarts is supposed to be kind of silly and like warts and like funny thing, and so you're not just translating a name, you're translating like a personality at the same time, and that's kind of fascinating. So it must be I think it'd be a really cool job.
That must be like a fun job, like localization of famous names / locations.
I mean translation generally is like really fascinating to me, translating a novel and that kind of thing. But the names I think are often I feel like I read an article about this once I forget which novel it was. Maybe it was Harry Potter, about just how difficult it was to translate the names, and some of them just almost weren't translatable. And that actually also reminds me of when Trump was president the first time, back in the day.
Remember
the halcyon days when it wasn't quite as bonkers as it is now. I remember reading an article by a translator, who was supposed to be translating I forget into what language, but like translating or interpreting his speeches live. And the translator was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do because he doesn't speak coherently. He doesn't speak in real sentences.
Yeah. More
He's
like,
just
blurting out
just
thoughts.
Nonsense. And so the translator was like, because it's so he'll start a sentence and normally you can sort of think about where it's going to go, but you never know. And the translator was like, he's untranslatable. And yeah, that was sort of fascinating and depressing at the same time.
I once read that he only uses like 150 words, and it's always a variation of this. It's always like great, amazing, excellent, again.
That doesn't surprise me, to be honest.
Let's not go into that.
No, let's not.
Let's keep it positive.
Yeah, let's try and focus on the good.
Yeah. Of course, it's very fun to talk for hours about movies and things like that. But I think I have to wrap it up because I always try to keep it under an hour, and we're already like an hour and 12 minutes. So
okay.
Yeah, I can just come back and we'll do another session.
Fine, great.
But I have to end with the one question that I ask of every clever girl is, do you like or do you have a thing for dinosaurs?
When I was younger, yes, I did. I was really, I think all kids are into dinosaurs.
Not all kids.
I loved watching The Land Before Time, which was
my
this.
favorite.
Okay. I was going to say, do you know it? And going to the sort of animatronic dinosaur exhibitions, which I actually went to one fairly recently. In London at the Natural History Museum, they dressed the T-Rex in like a Christmas jumper and a Santa hat.
I love the Natural History Museum.
But now, no, I think, so when I was a kid, I had two obsessions. Well, actually, no, I had more than two, but let's say dinosaurs. And then that got overtaken by ancient Egypt. And I would say I'm still fascinated by ancient Egypt, less so by dinosaurs.
Okay, that's perfectly acceptable. Did you have a favorite dinosaur as a kid, or
Stegosaurus, I think, or maybe Triceratops. I liked the sort of I don't even know what you call it now, which just shows that my knowledge is...
Yeah, in Dutch it would be like een kraag, they say.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't know, how would you say it in English? I
don't even know. It's almost like a ruff that a Renaissance man would wear, but... I don't know what you call it in English. But anyway, yes, I think those two were my favorites.
Yeah, I can see that. And ancient Egypt as well. I sometimes I get lost. It's really weird. It's like a weird flex, but I go to Wikipedia and I start to research the Valley of the Kings and just read about all the different sites. And I think like the most recent was 2006 that they found another grave or tomb. And then I think, wow, how fascinating that, let's say, what was it, 1922, I think, was Howard Carter?
Howard Carter, yeah.
So 103 years ago, and they're still not sure. It's still not empty, the Valley of the Kings. And that's so fascinating. After 100 years, you still find tombs, and you still find pharaohs and servants and whatever. Wow, that's how huge must it have been, and how huge is it still to this day? And
yeah, I'm really fascinated by kind of the mythology around tombs. So there's a tomb in Xi'an in China, and I forget the name of the person who's buried there, which is bad, but it's easily Googleable. And there was a legend that when he was buried, that he basically booby-trapped his tomb. Wow. Obviously, he didn't. he got people to
booby-trapped for him. Yeah.
And I think they spent, because I think unless I'm mixing up two legends here, he spent decades having his own tomb built because he wanted to be the most kind of incredible tomb ever.
Yeah.
And then there were all these legends that there's basically all these traps, and there's like rivers of molten mercury. Mercury is molten, but and there's all these things to stop anyone getting in. And apparently, they have actually done tests. Whatever you would use to test for mercury, and there are really high levels of mercury, for example, in the tomb, so it hasn't been opened. And I just find that fascinating. So I'm like, what is in there? What did he do? What kind of sort of Indiana Jones type stuff? And I have a real weakness for those like Indiana Jones style kind of 19th century imperial adventure stories. Very problematic in many ways now, but I love that kind of thing. So like tombs, mythology around tombs, Egyptians, they loved cats. I love cats. I've never been to Egypt, but I hope to go in the next couple of years. It's it's still a huge thing for me.
I just read today, really weird, that they found honey in an Egyptian tomb.
Yeah, it's still edible.
And it's still edible. Yeah, after 3,000 years. What?
Well, honey is the only food that doesn't ever go off. So I mean, technically, sugar and salt don't, but they're not food, right? You can't really eat them on their own. But honey, you can, and that's why I always find it hilarious when you buy a jar of honey and it will say, like, if I bought one now, it would say, like, best before 2027. I'm like, sorry, if it worked for the ancient Egyptians.
In which millennium?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they found wedding cake in the Titanic that's still edible. I mean, as I say, everything's edible once. But no, I mean, honey, it's fascinating. It's still good. And they've also, I think they found date seeds in I don't know if it was an ancient Egyptian tomb or if it was a tomb in Syria or the Middle East, and they managed to then grow trees from the same seeds, and they were not even century, millennia old.
So
3,000
years.
Fascinating the kind of things that you can, and being able to kind of reconstruct people's diets from what you find. And I think that was it. They found some bread, I think, in a tomb. Maybe it was in the Middle East or in Egypt, and they managed to sort of extract the like sourdough, like the kind of the yeast culture, and make a new loaf from it. I mean, that's wild, isn't it? It's just crazy.
Really, we're just touching or grasping greatness, and there's so many things left to explore. Elly McCausland, thank you very much. I loved talking to you.
Likewise.
We had many tangents and paths and movie titles and languages and puns out of the woods. Thank you for introducing me to
You're
that.
welcome.
And tart and winkle. No, lots of things learned today. I love when I learn new things. One should learn at least
likewise.
a thing.
Well,
you'll never forget that. So thank you for being a guest. Thank you for being a clever girl. Lots of success for your October book launch and your November book launch.
Thank you.
I love I don't think I've stressed it enough. So the cookbook is called Bake It Off, which is of course a great pun to shake it off.
And if you like puns, buy the book. It is full of them. So
I will.
All the recipe titles are basically puns on Taylor Swift songs.
I love it. There's one of my previous guests is a lady or a girl called Hannah Limmes, and she's written 2 books on sauce. So she makes recipes with sauce, and also filled to the brim with puns.
Amazing.
So, for example, instead of what the fuck, it's what the guac from guacamole.
Nice.
It's all
okay,
puns.
then I think her and I should meet.
So
I think we get on well.
If you want to read Dutch puns,
I do.
Buy her book.
That will help my Dutch immensely. So yes, thank you.
But to reiterate, a difficult pronunciation as well. Elly McCausland, thank you very much for being a guest, and lots of Taylor Swift success and teaching success. So until we meet again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.